Okay, there we go.
Hello, everyone.
Anthony.
So Epiphany is a company created to provide professional development for students, educators, and other stakeholders on various topics impacting our K through 12 and college educational institutions. Through Epiphany, we have the Coffee and Chat series. This series is a series of Black consciousness and thoughtfully designed sessions. The audience will have the opportunity to listen and learn from our panelists. The conversations will hone in on the voices of those who can speak on various subjects that are finally surfacing and highlighting the importance of Black education and nurturing Black students. So, my name is Anthony Davis. I'm currently a high school senior. I graduated early, but I will be walking in June, and I am on my college application and readiness path. Um, and I also am Kiera Vargas's son. So in her place, I will be helping moderate this panel discussion today. And today we are joined by our special guest, Dr. D. Greetings, Dr. D, and how are you?
Hi, Anthony. I'm doing well. How are you today?
Doing pretty well. So our first question for you is I want you to, could you share your professional journey and how that has led you to begin Tassel and Tassel? Or
Sure.
Tassel, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, so this has been an interesting journey for me. I did not start my educational journey thinking that I was going to be an educator, but here I am. So I actually attended North Carolina A&T State University as an electrical engineering major. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I stuck with that because I was good at science, I was good at math, Black woman, I was on scholarship. So hey, what do you do? While I was still figuring that out, I got my master's degree in computer engineering at NC State, and then I worked for a little while trying to sort out where I wanted to be, because I started teaching a Saturday enrichment program while I was a master's student to earn some extra money, and found that I did enjoy teaching. I just didn't know exactly what, if I wanted to teach education, if I want to teach engineering, what did I want to do? So while I was working, I decided that I wanted to pursue a doctorate in education. And I applied and was accepted to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So all of my degrees are from North Carolina public institutions. And I just started teaching, and from there, I did lots of different things. I'm going to fast forward to when I came back to my alma mater at A&T to teach. And I was actually working with your mother, teaching primarily freshman courses and interacting with freshmen. And over the years, I started to notice just a lot of the different challenges that students were having. And the challenges they were having were in no way indicative of their intellect or their ability to be successful. It was really all about their ability to adjust and transition from their K-12 environment and the expectations and the things they did there to their college environment and what's expected of them as college students. And so there are a lot of things that are expected of students that they don't know. And then there are some things that they hear about, but they may hear about it once at a point in their life where it doesn't affect them. And so, there's a lot of stuff that students get during that initial admissions process that you're going through right now. And then when students go through orientation, and all of those things don't stick because they're not immediately relevant. So I decided that I wanted to just start giving workshops to students here in the Greensboro area, because I lived in Greensboro at that time and I've since moved back. And I just started doing those workshops to help prepare students and parents for those expectations, and then to give them actionable items for if they face the situation, this is what they could do. And it just kind of took off from there.
It's a lot. So, first off, my first question was, if I feel like I hear this a lot, but if you weren't ready or you weren't looking to go into education, what were you wanting to do before?
Well, honestly, I hadn't really thought about it a lot. I'm a first generation college student, and so I didn't have in my immediate circle a lot of people who could guide me and kind of help me think through exactly what I wanted to be. So what I did honestly was the thing that people told me I was good at doing. So I was pretty good at science, I was pretty good at math. And so people said, hey, you should be an engineer. And I think your mom can relate to this. At that time, A Different World was a very popular show, and the engineer on A Different World, Dwayne Wayne, was electrical. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. I had no idea what I was stepping into. I had no idea what it really required other than being good at science and math. And then, as I mentioned, I was offered a scholarship. And so I was just like, okay, I'll do that. I'll try it out. I don't know, honestly, to this day, I don't know what I would do that would be a little bit different, because I appreciate all of the things that I got from my engineering degree, because it taught me how to think in a very logical and analytical way, which works well with my brain. But I think what I would have done is maybe pursued a little bit more of a creative path, and I may have done other things through a minor so that I could also use the left side of my brain, as opposed to simply, being kind of an analytical person.
Well, since you said that, what services do you provide, and how would you use the tips that you just said with what, or I'm sorry, what you said, what, like, kind of advice in a way? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Okay, that's a great question. So one of the things that I want to do is help more freshman students while they're freshmen, so that as they move through their educational journey, they can improve their own post-graduation options. And so a lot of times we think about that in terms of being your GPA, but while your GPA is very important, there are also experiences that happen while you're in college that are equally as important. And some of those things are pursuing different interests, right? And being able to know who you are and what you want to pursue later in life. And a lot of that comes from self awareness and from using all of the resources that are available on your campus. And so there are offices that will help you determine what types of professions suit your personality and your interests. There are opportunities through different majors to maybe craft a little bit of your own major, so that you can take something that might be considered non traditional and figure out how to make it fit within a traditional framework. And so I help students with that. The first kind of, I guess, official piece is what I call a college ready summer intensive. And so students like you, I consider to be college bound, because you're graduating from high school, you're applying and being admitted to different schools, and there are lots of doors and paths that are opening for you right now. And so you're college bound and you are kind of ready to hit the streets. There is, well, the college streets anyway. There is a term called college ready that talks about being able to navigate college as a system. How do you use all of these resources that are on your campus? All of the things that your tuition and fees pay for are there to help you figure out how to maximize what's happening both inside and outside the classroom, and be able to graduate with as many options as possible. So the college ready summer intensive is like it's a half day where I work with some other people who also provide mental health, and then some direction on habits. And we talk through some of these general knowledge situations. How do you advocate for yourself as a student? What are the offices that can help you with different things? What are the questions that I need to ask when I go to these particular offices? And so the College Ready Summer Intensive is kind of like the first formal touch point that I have with students. I also have designed a group coaching program as opposed to individual coaching. And people have asked me, why not individual coaching? And I intentionally designed the Tassel to Tassel coaching program to be a many to one situation, because I don't want any student to feel like they're going through this alone. When you are a wonderful, bright college student, you do a lot of work individually. You're able to make your way through a lot of situations by yourself. And that's just not how it is all the time in college. And I don't feel as though any student gets through college by themselves. And the earlier that I can help a student understand I'm not the only one going through this transition, the easier it will be for that student to say, hey, I am going to follow Dr. D's advice, and I am going to go to this office, and I am going to see this person, and I'm going to be comfortable with knowing that I'm not the only freshman who experiences this. I think a lot of times, especially now in our virtual world, you feel like you're by yourself when something happens. And not only are there people on your campus to help support you, but there are also other students who are going through the same experience. And so tassel to tassel group coaching allows students to use each other as resources and to support each other through the transition. There are lots of informal touch points like this conversation that I'm having with you today. I have an email list, and then there are different things that I do on different social media platforms. And so that's kind of how you can get the tassel to tassel experience.
Okay. Oh wow. I feel like that was a lot of information. I appreciate it. So I've looked over your book, and I feel like I like through or what I've noticed through it, it seems like it's really, really easy to read.
Mhm.
I feel like it contains a lot of information that I feel like is really, really important for at least my generation to know. And I feel like a lot of people they might not know it, and I feel like at least seeing from what I see, I feel like it's great information to have. Um, so I was wondering what kind of inspired you to make the book that way and to shape it like that.
Well, for your positive words about the book. I really appreciate that. But in terms of the way I wrote it to be kind of a pocket guide for students who are going through the college process and navigating that new environment. I'm always happy when students like you read it in advance so you have an idea of how to handle situations. But I really wanted students who were dealing with something in that moment to say, oh my goodness, what do I do? Because a lot of times even when students know that they need assistance with something because they've not needed that assistance in the past frequently, they don't know what to do and they don't know how to move forward. So what I decided to do was to write a really small book. It's like a pocket guide, and I feel like the worst author ever because I don't have one within arm's reach. But it is a small book that has, thank you so much, that started with about 50 bullet points. And each bullet point is something that, in my opinion, is important for college freshmen to know. And then the first thing is this is why that particular thing is important. And then the second piece is what you can do as a student, because I think that's where students get stuck. They don't know what to do when they're in a situation. So, for instance, I talk about office hours and how to go to office hours. A lot of students, one, don't know what that is. It's an opportunity that your instructor sets aside for you to come in and talk to them and speak to them. Their office is not the classroom where they teach. And so you have to go to where they live on campus during certain times. Virtually, they probably have office hours as well. And when you use office hours and you're stuck, some students don't know how to verbalize or express that stuckness, if you will. So I just have some conversation starters that are like, hey, someone comes to me and they say, hey, Dr. Eatman, I was working on this problem and I got to this point and then I got stuck. That helps me. Or if they say, Dr. Eatman, I did the problem and I got an answer, but when I check the back of the book, it's not the same. Wonderful. But a lot of times students are like, I don't understand any of this. And we can't help students. It helps us to help students when we can get more specific. Or even things like at the beginning of the semester, if you want to kind of set yourself apart from your classmates, you go to your instructor at the beginning of the semester, you say, hey, Dr. Eatman, my name's Anthony Davis. I'm a freshman mathematics major. I know that this class could be hard for some students. Are there any suggestions that you have for me as a freshman? Love that. Like that is one of the best things a student can do. And even if you want to do that, I had a student who introduced herself to me the week before classes started via email. She just introduced herself to me, let me know that she wanted to be successful in my class, and asked, was there anything she needed to do to prepare? There wasn't, but I know her. I remember her. And when I saw her in class, I was like, that's the one. And so those small things set you apart so that when you need things from your instructor, you've already established that connection, and it can help you, one, get what you need, two, grow as a student, and three, you might be on that instructor's radar for different things and different opportunities that happen throughout the year or the years while you're there. So I wrote it to give students kind of power, because now you know what to do when you're in that situation. And I meant for it to be easy. So thank you so much for confirming that the way it was written is easy to digest. That's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so you explained some of those challenges and things that students do that um that some students don't do, and I feel like it separates them. So what are some challenges that you see that first year college students face a lot?
Oh my goodness. Let me see. We only have 44 more minutes. So let me tell you. One of the first things is thinking that you know things. So if you took chemistry in high school, it's not the same chemistry in college. It will start off looking very, very similar. So students don't necessarily put a lot of effort into it at first. Same thing with composition and writing in English. Initially, it may look very similar to the courses that you took in high school, but once you get 6 or 8 weeks in, that's not always the case. And so I tell students to start studying from day one because students don't always think they need to study immediately. So begin studying from day one. And studying and homework are different. That's another thing that students don't always understand when they get to college. Studying is when you're taking the time to read the assigned text and go through all of the different concepts and try to cement some of those in your brain. Homework is getting that problem set done. And so they're different. And so that's one of the first things. The second thing is don't try to do everything you did when you were in high school. So you may have been an athlete and you may have been the president of student government, and you were also able to maybe play in the orchestra or be in theater or something like that. Slow down. It's kind of like a juggler doesn't start juggling 10 plates or 10 balls. You start with
Mhm.
two, right? You start, so that
Mhm.
first semester, just start with two activities. You have one organization that is related to your future profession and one thing that you do for leisure, whether that's an intramural sport or if you want to join the chess club or something like that. Juggle those two. Make sure you can handle those in your time management plan, which a lot of students don't have, and I'll talk about that later. But juggle those two, and then as you see that you can balance all of these things, start to incorporate more activities. I see a lot of students jump headfirst into doing all of the things when they get to college. And then that 6 weeks in, when work gets tough, they've already filled their schedule with all of these other commitments and they've not yet always established study habits. And so it's hard to try to learn to study when your course is also
Mhm.
hard. It's easier to learn how to study when things are going really, really smoothly. So those are a couple of things that I tell students to do. And again, like I said, introduce yourself to your instructors, whether you feel as though you need assistance or not. Introduce yourself to every single instructor so they know your face, because some schools are small and you'll have 25 students in a class. Some lectures are huge and there will be 200 students in the lecture. And unfortunately, you become another student. And if there's nothing that makes you stand out, then your instructor might not know what you need. Right. So, for instance, I keep bringing up your mom, but your mom and
Yeah.
I have both taught public school. And so, when you're in a small setting, you can read faces and you can kind of see what's going on with students and you can figure out what's happening. Well, in large lectures or even in virtual situations, we can't see everyone at once. And so I would go to you if I knew Anthony. I'm like, well, let me see how Anthony feels about this. And if your eyebrow starts to twist up, then I say, okay, well, maybe something's happening. But I need someone to try to get that read from. And so if you are the student that the instructor knows, they can get that read from you. Right. And so you might be the barometer for the entire class because they know, if Anthony's not quite feeling that great about it, then other people may not feel that great about it either. And so they're just things like that. Get to know your instructors, make a time management plan, limit your involvements that first semester, and then try to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's brand new. It's a brand new ball game.
Okay. So personally, I have 8 colleges that I was accepted to that I
Mhm,
applied for,
mhm,
um, and I have a bunch of scholarships that I've applied for. And personally, I have enough time because I graduated early, and a lot of people don't have those resources because I know that I could reach out to you and I can be like, hey, Dr. D, can you help me with this? Can you guide me on this? And a lot of students don't have those resources.
mhm,
So I was wondering, with having colleges that you've applied to, a bunch of colleges that you applied to, and you
mhm.
have high school teachers to ask help for, how would you go upon doing that? And how should I choose the college that I want to go to?
That's a wonderful question. Those are wonderful questions because a lot of times there's the excitement of the application and then the acceptances, and you're just like, okay. So, what I suggest for students is just one, bring your full self to this moment where you're making a decision about where you want to spend the next 4 to 5 years of your life. Also, feel good about the decision that you are going to make for yourself. And every parent might not like this, but be sure you're making this decision for yourself. And as you make the decision, some of the things that I encourage students to think about are, they have your major, right? Hopefully it's a place that you want to live, but I want you to think about that. Is this a place that you want to live for 4 to 5 years, right? So whether you want to stay close to family, if you want to kind of get away from family, do you want to live in a big city, a small city? What are the things that are around there? I actually had to write a few notes about things to consider. And so um, look at things like within your major or your department, because you get all of these general university statistics. So when I'm mentioning these things, I'm talking about within your major. Look at the teacher to student ratio for some of the courses that you're going to take, right? They might be like, oh, the university teacher to student ratio is 27 to 1. Okay, well, you check out that first math class because it might be 200 to 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that first science class may be 150 to 1. And check out the graduation rates for your department. The university is going to advertise this is the
Yeah.
graduation rate. Look at that graduation rate within your department. As a Black male, look at the graduation rate for Black males. If you're a woman, look at the graduation rate for women. Look at the graduation, if you're a veteran, all of those things. Look at those very specific graduation rates. Now, this might not change your mind about where you want to go to school, but it gives you some information about how challenging it may be for you. If you are going into a STEM field, I can say this as a STEM educator and as a former STEM student. If you are starting some STEM majors and you've not yet taken calculus, statistically, that could change your graduation rate. And so you want to know this going in. You want to find out what the campus environment is like. Um, since again, as a Black male, what is it like being a Black student on a predominantly white institution's campus? What is it like if you are an international student on a campus that's predominantly white, or on an HBCU campus for that matter, if you're an international student? What is that like? Well, how do you find out things like that? You follow different groups on social. That is one of the benefits of social media. There are always groups that are formed around some type of common bond, either on campus. It could be a student arm of a professional organization on a particular campus, or it could be a group or a hashtag that's created specifically for that campus. So look at those things and get that information. And as you go through social, if you're doing that, you're going to find some people who are more vocal in some of these groups and on some of these pages. So reach out to some of those people and see what it's like. There are open houses that are happening, but as students are becoming accepted, right? You get the opportunity to go visit the campus. Yeah, go on and visit that campus and see all of the ambassadors that they bring out for you, but do not hesitate to stop a student who's walking down the sidewalk and say, hey, I'm considering coming here in the fall. What do you think? Just to get that candid response every now and then. Now, I haven't quite figured out how to do that in a virtual world, but if you are on a physical tour, you can just stop someone who's not part of the official tour just to get different perspectives. And so a lot of that choice comes from self-awareness. And we know in reality, you got to look at your financial aid package. That's not necessarily my wheelhouse, but I know that that makes a lot of difference when you look at how much money you have in scholarships versus loans versus grants. So those are some of the things that I suggest students do when you're making that final decision.
Um, so what kind of services would you offer to a student like me? So I'm a Black male, right?
Mhm.
And I know that being in a PWI as a Black male and being in an HBCU as a Black male is completely different.
Mhm.
Can you explain the challenges that you've seen, or what you would expect?
Sure. So with Tassel to Tassel, I typically approach more of the general freshman experience, the entering freshman experience, but having attended and taught at an HBCU and actually attended and taught at a PWI, I have seen a lot of different things. And I think one of the biggest things is one, in that selection process, as I mentioned before, look at the graduation rates for Black males in your major. Also, while you're looking, look at organizations that are geared towards Black males at that institution. Even though you go to an HBCU, you might feel like, oh, it's all built in. Well, you can still probably find a student organization that's going to help uplift and support Black men. So you want to find out what the campus environment is like for Black men at that particular institution, and then at a predominantly white institution, it's probably more likely that you will find an organized group that has been established to support the experience of Black students and Black men. And that would be one of the things that I would suggest that you seek out as you're making the selection process. Again, you're not necessarily going to exclude in universities. Once you find out this information, you just kind of know what you're working with. And then you might want to look and see if any of the local community groups that you know about are present in the area where you're thinking about attending school. Lots of civic organizations might interact with schools in their area, with college students, and have mentoring type programs. We know that there are fraternity chapters on a lot of campuses, but there are also a graduate or alumni chapters. They're called different things in different organizations that also kind of reach back to mentor on the college campus as well. So not necessarily that fraternity chapter at that school, but just thinking in general, like what are the men's organizations that are in the area that are supportive of Black men at this school? So I say find out where your support system may be. Another thing that you'll find at a PWI that you won't find at an HBCU is a Black Students Association. So you kind of want to find like, what is this group? What do they do? What are they all about? And then again, the beauty of social media is that if you go check them out on social, you can kind of see who they follow and you can get a sense of what they're all about and what you can get from that. And so using social media as a research platform, I think is actually one of the best things that you can do for someone who's in your position right now. Because that's the truth, right? You're going to see the unfiltered truth from some of these comments and some of the posts that you get. So, yeah.
Um, Also, so what challenges do you think that freshmen have that you also see a lot that can be avoided if we were prepared in high school? And how do you think that we could prepare for it in high school?
Okay, thanks. So part of the challenge is that up until the pandemic, you were at home as a high school student and you weren't necessarily at home as a college student. And so through good parenting, there are a lot of things that your parents do for you that they will not be there to do once you go to college. It's a little bit different now that many students are in a virtual world and they're living at home during college. But one of the things, there are a few tips that I do have. One of them is just kind of shifting to taking care of yourself. So there are a lot of things that we talk about when it comes to being an adult, and it's not just saying, hey, I'm 18, I'm ready to go ahead and do all of my own things. It's more about understanding what does adult behavior look like, and independent of college, right? As an adult, it is up to you to get up. Just get up for class, which a lot of people have been practicing over the past year. But think about who you are and what you need. And if you still need a nudge from somebody to get out of your bed in the morning, make that the first thing that you work on. Right. As I mentioned before, some of your classes are going to be really, really large, and you don't have to go to class because no one is going to make you. There are a lot of classes that don't take attendance. So it's up to you to say, it is important for me to get up and get out of my bed and attend this class. Sometimes you'll have the opportunity to craft your schedule the way you want to, but sometimes it is what it is. And you have that 8 a.m. class, whether you like it or not. I always encourage students to try to create their schedule based on their peak productive times. But if you can't do that, then you still have to kind of go with the flow. So take care of yourself in terms of get yourself up, manage your own schedule, right? If you are driving, then know when your doctor's appointments are, know when your practices are, know when you need to be certain things by certain times, and you can drive yourself there. Even if you're not driving and you're asking your parents for a ride, no, right? Don't expect your parent to say, you have a doctor's appointment today at 3 o'clock. You remind your parent the night before, hey, Ma, I got this appointment tomorrow at 3. I just wanted to remind you, so you can drive me. Or if you're taking a lift or whatever, then that's kind of on you. But managing your own schedule. One of the things that I've seen a lot from students is kind of advocating for yourself. And by advocating for yourself, I mean being able to have what may be a slightly uncomfortable conversation with a faculty or staff member about something that needs to be addressed. So if you want to go talk about a grade that you earned, if you want to talk about the difficulty that you're having, that is something that you are encouraged to do because that's your grade and that's the thing that's at stake. Sometimes parents have the conversation. I've been there where I've had the conversation with a parent. Ultimately, though, what happens is I would say things, and I'm going to use your name because I know you. I would say, well, has Anthony tried X, Y, and Z? And they'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, well, has Anthony done this? And often the parent says, I don't know. And it really kind of comes back to what you're doing as a student. So I always, if the parent contacts me, I encourage them to bring the student into the conversation so that we're all having the same conversation. And you can then answer the questions on your behalf about what is happening, what isn't happening, what issues you may be having, and get guidance from your parents, because I don't ever want anyone to exclude their parents. Get the guidance from your parents, but kind of take care of it yourself. And you can, well, not you because you've already graduated, but for people who are in their second semester of senior year, handling a lot of that really it empowers you to feel as though you can do it when your parents aren't there. Oh, check your email and complete your own paperwork. Please do that. Please, please, please do that so that you are not missing deadlines. You're making sure things are paid. You're making sure you're properly registered for different events. You're going to your orientation. You're watching the videos. Check your email and complete your own paperwork or forms. Yeah. So that helps. It's like that little bit can help a lot.
So, with all that being said, I feel like I feel like a lot of it is on college students, and at least for me, from my perspective, with the schools I've gone to, I feel like a lot of teachers and high school counselors and just people like that in general sometimes do not help the kid reach to where I feel like they can't be. Like for example, with scholarships, I feel like sometimes I can see that it's hard because like I didn't know that I would have to apply to all these scholarships and how to apply to scholarships. I feel like it's just a process. And so I was wondering if you could explain how you think that high school what's the words I'm looking for, advisors and counselors could help from their
Well, okay. Let me see. It's a little difficult because there are a lot of students. So when we talk about ratios for counselors,
yeah
there counselors have a really really big load, and so sometimes it is hard to offer individualized instruction to students about things. But I think one of the biggest ways, honestly, is when their doors open, right? I mean, because I have to think about this from a high school perspective, because on the college um, campus, there are sometimes people whose only job is to advise, and that is not your high school guidance counselor's only job, right? So they are handling any mental wellness issues, they're doing scheduling, they're handling the conversations about college and scholarships. And so I think one of the ways is you can help them help you is by just being honest about where you are and what you need, right? Every student who plans to go to college needs to know how to choose a college. They need to know how to go through the application process. They need to know what costs are associated with applying to college. They also need to know how to fill out their FAFSA, fill out scholarship applications, and then maybe some of the steps to take as they finally select a school. So, kind of letting your counselor know what you know and what you don't know can be really helpful, because sometimes it is an individual conversation and then sometimes it's pointing you in the right direction. I'm going to severely date myself at this time, but when I was in high school in my guidance office, there were file cabinets that had scholarships and they were organized by like major and stuff. And so you just kind of knew if it was time to search for scholarships, you need to go to the file cabinet. And so would open up the drawer and we're going through. So they have them by major, they have them by institution, they might have regional scholarships, but it was work. And so the scholarship, my guidance counselor didn't do it for me, but they pointed me in the direction to where to get it done. And then if I had to write an essay, I could come back maybe to my guidance counselor and ask for assistance with that essay. So a lot of it is on you simply because you know where you want to be and you know what types of schools that you may be interested in, but your guidance counselor can always get you started down that path. And I would venture to say, if there are any guidance counselors on here, please throw it in the chat. I would venture to say that there's like some type of scholarship, not scholarship, college application and selection checklist. I'm guessing that there is, because I cannot imagine in this world that you're just kind of left out there floundering. I think the challenge comes because your guidance counselors have an extremely huge course load workload in terms of their student ratio. And then they also are serving in lots of different roles. So, and then I can't speak for every state, but I know in the state of North Carolina, there's FAFSA application assistance through something like CFNC, like you can get help with that. And then also way back in October, they had a free application week in the state of North Carolina as well. So there are, I don't know if they still do bulletin boards in the high schools, but bulletin boards outside of the counseling office are a wonderful way to see where's this information. And so a lot of it is honestly just getting up and asking the question and saying, I know I want to go to college, but I'm not sure exactly what steps I should take. And I would imagine that for the majority, if not all of your guidance counselors, if you can just be that honest and be that truthful, they'll get you started.
So you were explaining that it's the college students choice in I'm lost of words of it's basically my decision, and I have to step up. So do you have any like life hacks or organization tips or any type of tips to help for just stuff out of school, but just like outline type things?
So interestingly, I'm looking around because I actually have a binder. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm a nerd, y'all, and I'm older, and a lot of my stuff is on paper. So you could probably do this electronically. And I did not think to do this when I was applying to colleges for undergrad, but I did it. I didn't even do it for my master's degree. I did it for my PhD. I created a binder so y'all could create a Google document and
Yeah.
start off with a spreadsheet that has all of the schools to where you're applying, and then you can list out these categories of things that are important to you. So some of the things that I mentioned, like what is the university's graduation rate? What is my department graduation rate? What is the student to teacher ratio? What is the average cost of tuition? I can't think of where I found it, but there's a website that basically, I know in the state of North Carolina, will let you know how much your degree is worth after you graduate, right? So you might want to know something like that. Like, is it worth the X amount of dollars for me to go, oh my gosh, what is the starting salary um, in your position after you leave like X school? It's not necessarily fair, but some people consider, I don't know, a math degree from one school to be worth more than another in salary. So you might want to look at some stuff like that. Um, put in the spreadsheet your deadlines for acceptance, for paying your first deposit, for what's the thing for RSVPing, for orientation, for all, like create, if you're like me, that helps so much. And so I still to this day, gonna age myself again. It's been 20 years. I have that binder because it was one of the most life-changing things for me to put together that binder that had all of that information for each school. So as I was going through that process, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get accepted to every school for which I applied to the PhD program, but I had a very clear idea of what I needed to do as part of the application process and what I needed to do when I started making my selections. And so it was really helpful for me. You can do that with the schools to which you're applying. You can do that with your scholarships that you're trying to get. And, what do you need? Oh, I need the application. I also need an essay. I have to have it done by this date. Is how many recommendations do I need? And so you can have all that stuff lined up. And so I believe, as a person who needs systems, that having something like that now kind of helps you learn how to have something like that later. So that as you're managing your time as a college student and you're like, okay, so these are the things that I need to get done by the end of this week. And you can kind of reverse engineer when you need to start that assignment, when you need to start that project, when you need to start that thing that you're doing with the student organization, right? Like, oh, I said I would do the flyer for this group. They need it by this date. I need to back it up to this date. And I know everyone's not visual, and I know that everyone doesn't need that much structure. But if you, I say try it. And if you don't need it, great. If you don't find yourself referencing it, but you're still getting everything done, great. If you're not referencing it, nothing's getting done, then you might need, to kind of try to use some type of system. I think systems are really helpful, particularly as you're going through something like a transition from high school to college, because your responsibilities will change. Sometimes the turnaround on when things are due is so fast that you need to have this thing highlighted in your planner, in your phone, because you can lose things if you're like, oh, it's in my email. Okay, great, it's in your email, but if it's not on your calendar, you might miss it. Like I I did that. I lie to you not. When I was going getting my PhD, it was time for the hooding ceremony, which is a big deal once you get a
Yeah.
PhD. I missed the deadline, so I didn't get my 2 tickets for my parents to come see me get hooded.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I had to put my folks in the overflow room. Fortunately, there was an overflow room, but I missed
Hmm.
it because I marked it in my email, but didn't put it in my calendar. So the deadline for me to say, hey, I need 2 tickets came and went. And I know we've all done that for something, but systems help you avoid things like that. If something's important, it should be somewhere that you can see it regularly so that when life gets busy and you might have a little downtime, you'll be like, oh, I need to take care of X, Y, and Z. So I say systems.
So, I know you worked with the first general college students at A&T, and my mom said she worked with you. I was wondering, how do you make this program successful? And can you like just discuss that and explain?
Are you referring to the program where your mom and I work together?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for asking about that. Yeah,
If you have
so
any other programs too, you want to explain, you can.
well, I mean, honestly, when I first got into education, I was teaching. It's kind of over time that I started working with programs like this. But so one of the things is one of the points I mentioned earlier, just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I tell students to kind of, walk into this space as though you know nothing and you are here to learn and you're learning how to be a good student. So as we were designing the program specifically where your mom and I work together, we were like, how do we frame these days for students so they get what being a good college student is like, right? So one of our colleagues, Dr. John Slade, who I always have to shout out, said in college you don't have free time, you have time to manage. So until students could figure it out, we were like, we'll figure it out for you. So we had their day structured where they would go to class. We structured study time. We structured a coffee break. We had a Starbucks break where they got to meet different faculty and staff so they could start having these conversations with people. We structured study time. There was a minimum of 2 hours every night that people were in the library. All of the students in our program were in the library, and we brought in tutors from the Center for Academic Excellence, which is what it's called at A&T. We brought in people who, mental wellness professionals, to talk about this is how maybe some type of anxiety might look if you're a new college student, because when we are thrown into new situations, we don't always know what those feelings are that we feel. And sometimes it's excitement about a new situation. Sometimes it's a little bit of anxiety. Sometimes it's just uneasiness. And so, how do we manage that? When I worked at other institutions, we've incorporated some wellness and activities and yoga and Zumba. And how do you find this way to create a really good experience for yourself? But a lot of it was teaching our students how to manage their time. And they did have dedicated time every weeknight to study. And we were actually in a residence hall with another group. And they didn't get it at first, but they told our students later that they actually wish their program had been structured in that way, because it was finals time, because our students were taking summer school classes, real summer school classes, and it was time for finals. And those students didn't feel as though they were as well prepared to study for their finals because they'd not really learned how to study all along. And this was only a 6-week program, but that 6 weeks made a difference because every Monday through Thursday, from 7 to 9, or maybe it was 8 to 10. I don't remember. Your mom might remember. But for every Monday through Thursday, they were studying. And so it just became second nature to the point where when they started their freshman year, they asked us if we would create study halls for them because they wanted to keep studying from 8 to 10 o'clock. They liked the structure that we provided. Universities always offer that for you, but they wanted that structure with that same cohort of students because they liked the organization that came with that. So we were thinking about how do we help our students be good students, because it doesn't matter what your major is. It doesn't matter, in some instances it doesn't matter how great your grades were when you were in high school, because you're a college student now. Really quickly, a former colleague of mine said that going from high school to college is kind of like going from the minor leagues to the pros, where the rules of the game don't change but the level of play increases. And so when we were going through that program, we were trying to teach our students, how do you rise to this different level of play? Because it looks different. The name of the class is chemistry, but it looks really different. How do we help you get to that point where you feel as though you can soar when you're in this new situation?
Okay, so do you have any tips for just being successful in general? Like you, yeah.
Well, let me see. General college success, I think, comes from um, one, knowing who you are, knowing that you got accepted to college. So let's just start there and celebrate that, and know that you're capable of completing the college degree. You need help, because we all need help, whether it's in the form of our support system at home, the study groups that we form while we are in school, or the faculty and staff who kind of become our family away from home, right? Especially if y'all are going off to college, if fall 21, more things are opening up, you're going off to college, and there will be people on each campus who are there to help support you. They're not always found very easily. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but in general, just be open to new experiences. Be open with not being able to do everything amazingly well at the very beginning, and be open to working a little bit harder and a little bit differently than you did as a high school student. And knowing that if you don't get it right straight out the gate, it's not the end of the world. Like, all of us are works in progress. I give time management workshops and people pay me to do that, but I still have problems with my own time management, right? So know that we're all working on it. Even sometimes when you know the right thing to do logically, it is hard to train your brain to do that thing. If you don't have to read a lot in high school to get your work done, it is going to take time to train your brain to sit down and read and
Yeah.
take notes to get that work done.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is hard. It is a constant struggle. But there are people who are there to help support you. And one of the things too is find your support people, right? Find the people that you need when you have to get away, right? I'm not talking, we're not studying, I just need to do something else. These might be the people that you play video games with. Maybe you play pool. Maybe you play basketball. Find those people. Find the people who are going to study and force you to study even when you don't feel like it, because those people are part of your support system too, right?
Hmm.
Find the person whose office you can go cry in, or you can be upset in, or you can kind of let your feeling it happens, right? Because there are so many different things that you're dealing with. So just find those different people in your life who can help support you through all of your emotions and all of your experiences. And a lot of them start at high school. So when you're talking about, what do I do with my guidance counselor? Ask your guidance counselor where they went to school. If your guidance counselor, if someone in your school has gone to the school that you're thinking about, ask them those questions. You never know who people know, right? Fraternities, sororities, civic organizations, alumni relations. There are so many people who can introduce you to someone on your campus, be they an upperclassman or a faculty and staff member. And that is kind of where you can start building the support system. Everybody's not going to be in your support system the entire time you're in school. And some people might be for a season, and some people might be those people that stay in your life forever. But that is one good way to kind of have a really good and rich college experience, because we're all trying to work on something and we all need someone to help us get through those things.
Thank you. So I'm gonna open the floor up to any more questions, or unless you have any more comments you wanna.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else on my notes. But yeah, just just be open. Be open to the experience and know that you can have a good time and be a good student. Those things are not mutually exclusive. You can do both.
Dr. D,
Yeah.
you actually have one of your former students up here. Do you remember Julian McDaniel?
Yes, I see Julian. Hey, Julian. It's been forever since I've seen you.
And Julian and Anthony are very close because Julian is my mentee. So we talk at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yes, so you have someone who's closer to your age that can talk to you about their experiences in college. And so yeah, I say find somebody who's, a few years older than you, find somebody who might even be, I don't know, if you can, 10 years older than you, and ask them what their experiences were like, because that can be very informative as well. But yeah, Julian, I'm so glad to see Julian. Yeah, Julian was part of the program at North Carolina A&T when I was there. So
Yeah.
wonderful. Wonderful. I saw questions pop up, but I didn't get to read all of the questions. And so I'm going to try and take some time now. Oh, yeah. Someone mentioned check the public library for Learn and Express libraries, helpful for finding scholarships. There's a thing called FastWeb that you can use from NSF. I haven't looked at FastWeb in a long time, but you have to set up a profile, and I think it'll send you a lot of information. Um, Let me see. College boards for steps for the college admissions process. Um, High school educators preparing their students. I mean, a lot of it is just asking questions of your instructors about what what is college like for me and what is college like for you. And I don't know if educators are interested in initiating the conversation, because I love a departure from curriculum to talk about things that are affecting students in the moment, because it's important sometimes, right? I have the flexibility to do that with the course that I teach, and I'm very thankful that I can do that. But sometimes having the conversation, like, what do you want to do with your life? What questions do you have that no one else has been able to answer for you, or questions that you need to know the answer, but you don't want to ask your parents? Like, give that time, give that space, especially around college admissions time, and now it's college selection time. Have those conversations. If you can depart from curriculum, I say do it, because it's always nice to get lots of different perspectives. Guidance counselors are a wonderful first touch point, but we know they have a large load of students, and we also know that you never know who has gone to that school, or has a student who, their child may have gone to that school, or, a niece, a nephew, or something like that. So I say just open up the lines of communication for educators. I know everyone doesn't have the same flexibility. So I'm not going to say, like, just don't just scrap your curriculum and your lesson plans, but, open things up or offer to talk to students about it after school. It's a wonderful way. I do some Aggie Pride, right? I love having my stuff in the background so my students know where I went to school, right? Because they might have questions about that. I had a little rivalry with a student who was in South Carolina, because I actually teach for a school in South Carolina. He's like, South Carolina State, this and that. Yeah, but y'all ain't beating these Aggies. So now we get to have a conversation about what was happening in football, right? But it can lead to other conversations about,
Yeah.
what else do you do? Where else did you go to school? So I wear my school pride when I can, because I went to two other schools too, but this is the one that lives right there. But so they can know this is where I've been, this is where I've worked, this is where I've been a student, so that my students know, hey, she's done these different things. I wonder if she knows about this. And so, yeah. So I don't know if there's
So any more comments or questions from we can ask from the audience if you guys have anything, just say, or you can put it in the chat and we can ask.
And I know that there's a lot that is going on as you transition to college. I know this might sound kind of hippie. Be kind to yourself as you go through this. It's brand new for you, even if your
Yeah.
parents went to college, even if your older siblings went to college. This is new for you. This is a new time in your life where you're making all of these decisions, right? You apply to 8 colleges, and if you get accepted to 8 colleges, That's a lot to sift through, to kind of figure out, well, which one is the best one. And you always want to make the right decision. And how do you know right now if
Yeah.
you're making the right decision? And so some of it is, a lot of it is self-awareness and knowing, to the degree that you can, who you are and what you need. If you like big cities, go to a school in a big city. If you feel like you need to be a little bit closer to home, stay home. I do encourage every student, if they can, to go away though. At some point, use your educational career to just go away. You can always come home. I've left and come back to Greensboro multiple times, and I'll probably leave again before it's all said and done. But go away, go away. And if for you going away is 50 miles, great. Right. So,
Yeah.
and if you don't do it for your undergraduate degree, maybe consider doing it for your graduate degree, so that you can experience different things at different types of institutions in different areas of the country, says the woman who got all of her degrees within a 75-mile radius. But that's not the point. The point is that I ventured out with some of my jobs into other areas of the country and doing different things. And so just, be kind to yourself as you go through this process. Get guidance from the people that you know, love, and trust, be they in your immediate family, your extended family, your chosen family of mentors, teachers, people that go to church with you, people you may know from civic organizations. Get their guidance, but make the decision that is best for you. And that is what's really, really important, because I've seen students make decisions about schools and majors based on other people's expectations and other people's determination of what was best for them. And a lot of times they were not happy. They weren't happy. So, and a lot of it is work. You mentioned going through scholarships. It's work. It's work. Applying for scholarships is work. Selecting scholarships is work. It's all work. It is, but it's work that's leading you to a place where you can have an amazing and wonderful experience. So I
Well,
do have this though, because
mhm.
as the businesswoman, I got to be the businesswoman. So I know it's college admission time, and I know, like you, a lot of students are selecting their college and they're trying to work through scholarships. And so, with that, I do have an email list where I send out different tips and suggestions and things. And I do it starting now at the end of your senior year and then all the way through freshman year. So, what I'm going to do, if I can, is ask you, if you are interested in getting this, you can sign up for my email list. There's a QR code on the screen. If you point your camera at the screen, then you can sign up to the email list, where you can tell me your name and what grade you are in school, so I can kind of make sure that I have the information that'll fit you for where you are. At the bottom as well is my handle on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, if you're interested in some of my little daily things and little tips that I have, so that whether you want to work with me and do my college ready intensive or not later this summer, you're still getting all of this information that I send out regularly to the people who are on my email list. So that is one of the things that I'm gonna ask y'all to do if you're interested in getting more information, because my goal is just to help as many students as possible, right? So whether you choose to work with me or not, I'm okay with that. But just know that I'm going to give out some information to everyone who is signed up on my email list. And I think it's useful stuff, right? Of course, things are more in depth if you work with me, but just know this: if you do want to get a tassel to tassel service, I don't duplicate services that are available on your campus. I teach you how to use them so you get the biggest bang for your buck. So that when you walk into, say, your counseling office, you're equipped with some questions to make sure that your issues are being addressed. If you walk into office hours, this is how you get this thing. It's kind of like having me walk through most of the tips from the book. So there's that. So if you're interested in joining the email list, please take a picture of the QR code, and your phone will take you straight to the webpage to join the email list. And I should have an email that's coming out tomorrow. Time management. I told you that's
Thank
what
you.
I'm working on.
So we're about to run out of time.
Mhm.
I appreciate you for your time. I appreciate everyone for your time. And yeah,
All right. Well, thank
Thank
you
you
so
all
much.
so much.
have
Thank
a
And
great day.
I had a wonderful time talking to you. Just reach out to me if you need anything else.